All right, hello and welcome everyone to week 2 of Shishman's online certificate series, the 2023 Social Media Strategies in Healthcare. Today we're viewing the using influencer marketing to amplify ongoing population health efforts. Just a quick reminder to complete those discussion questions for the first week if you haven't already. And the week 2 discussion questions are up now. So after this webinar, you could go ahead and go in there and complete those discussion questions and also complete the survey. The link is in top class, but it should also launch once this webinar closes. So today we're really excited to be joined by Adair Leblanc, who is the manager of digital content at Ochsner Health, Craig Fairfield, who's managing director at Wax Custom Communications, and Amanda Herriman, who is senior marketing strategist at Wax Custom Communications. So Adair, Craig, and Amanda, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Sorry, I was trying to click over on to that next slide so everybody could see what our heads look like. But this is what we look like. I'm Craig. I have Amanda and Adair here with me today. We're really excited to be part of this, and we're going to go quickly today, but hopefully tell a story that you guys find interesting and give you some information that you can find useful. We're going to start by talking about some of the good work that Ochsner is doing around population health. Adair is going to lead that part. Then we're going to talk about how we've helped them integrate influencer marketing into those efforts, what it takes to ramp up an influencer marketing campaign, give you some tips for how to do that yourself. And then we're going to show you toward the end examples of this campaign that's in progress now. So let's talk a little bit more about Louisiana and the work that Ochsner's doing. Adair, tell everybody about Louisiana.
Yes, thanks for kicking it over to me. I wanted to start us off just by kind of talking through one of the challenges we have faced as an organization at Ochsner Health, and that is Louisiana's rankings. For the past decade, Louisiana has ranked near the bottom of the country. We usually switch between us and Mississippi of our health rankings, and in 2020, we did rank 49th in America's health rankings. And a lot of the challenges we face as a state include poverty amongst children, smoking, obesity, low birth rates. We also experience high rates of cardiovascular death and cancer death. And we have some of the highest rates of chronic conditions, which can be diabetes, high blood pressure, COPD. But what's really, the pinpoint of these jarring statistics is it really comes down to the health and equity of our state. Even providing world-class care at our Ochsner facilities, it really takes working with the communities we serve on a granular level and really putting into practice some of those healthy lifestyle choices to really set people up to live a healthy and happy life. So that's why in 2020, we launched our Healthy State campaign. So the mission of our Healthy State campaign is to realize and improve health and wellness of our community by bringing resources to underserved communities. We also try to better understand the impact of health and social conditions. We utilize data, technology, and innovation to improve outcomes. And we also work on investing in Louisiana's economic growth and our workforce development. Obviously, that all sounds like a lot, and it's not just something that Ochsner can do by ourselves. So we have partnered with local and state leaders and also organizations to realize a more healthy and equitable Louisiana. And priority areas within our Healthy State campaign include food security, wellness and obesity, workforce and education, cancer and chronic conditions, smoking cessation, and lastly, broadband access. A lot of these programs, if people don't have internet access, they won't be able to access it. So that is very much an important piece of all of this. And if we go to the next slide, we have a nice video for you to see that kind of sums up all those conditions and missions of Healthy State.
Imagine a world where you hardly step foot inside a doctor's office, yet you feel fully supported along your wellness journey. Imagine care designed with a single goal, to keep you well, mind, body, and soul. Fortunately, this isn't some imaginary future. It's happening now, because a healthy state begins with a healthy you. Visit ochsner.org/healthystate to get started on your personalized health journey today.
And a big portion of our Healthy State campaign is really trying to get people to eat better and also exercise. So there are also other programs that roll up to it, which is including our Ochsner Eat Fit program. So Ochsner Eat Fit launched well before our Healthy State campaign. They're actually celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year. That was launched by one of our dietitians, Molly Kimball. And a big focus of that is sharing ways that people can make substitutes in their meals to have healthier options. And a big component of Ochsner Eat Fit is teaming up with local chefs, local restaurants to offer healthier options at these restaurants. As we all know, I think food is a really big component of Ochsner's culture, of New Orleans culture and Louisiana's culture. So just providing ways that people can still enjoy those Louisiana classic dishes that they love, but with a healthy twist is extremely important. And Eat Fit has been able to do this through offering a mobile app. Users can go on this app, really quickly see, what restaurants are in the area, some of their favorite restaurants that might have Ochsner Eat Fit approved menu items. They also offer cookbooks, a zero-proof cocktail book as well. And they provide resources, research, and data to basically back up all the resources that they're pushing to our consumers. And through these strategic partnerships are really able to allow people, like I said before, still have access to those Louisiana classic meals, but with a healthy twist.
Sounds good to me. If I'm going to come down to Louisiana and see you, I want to be able to eat all that good food.
Yeah, it definitely is one of the great points of New Orleans and Louisiana.
Yeah, telling people to not do the things they love to do is usually not a good path towards success. You guys are already doing a lot of great work, the Healthy State Initiative, the Eat Fit component. But at the end of the day, if people don't know about it or don't know how to take advantage of it, don't know how to use the things that are being offered, it doesn't matter how good those programs are. So you were already, before we got introduced, you were already doing a lot of good work. Talk a minute about how you're getting these messages out to the community.
Right. So most other, marketing organizations, most other people on this call, we do have a very robust Marcom department, and we are working with each of those areas to get the word out about Healthy State and Eat Fit through, press releases, internal communications. It's just as important for our employees to know what's going on in these programs so that they can then share it with their family and friends. And then, of course, social media, which is the area I oversee, is a really big component of getting the messages out to the communities we serve.
And you were leveraging all the right channels already, running
Right.
social media. Obviously, that's an important, really frontline communication, but you recognize you needed to do even more.
Yeah, so we have, like you said, we have a presence on all the major social media platforms, and we're targeting content specifically to the demographics that are on each of these platforms because, as we all know, they're each different. But I think, as many people know on the call, it sometimes takes more than the organization themselves sharing these key messages in order to really spark a change in someone and get them thinking that they should make those changes.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to talk about today is what's another way to motivate people to make those changes. As we were preparing for this, we had a lot of conversations about motivation, and I've had the privilege of talking to hundreds, probably thousands of people about health and wellness, and they all know what they need to do. If you ask somebody, could you be a little healthier? They'll say, yeah, I'm sure that I could. And if you ask them, well, what would you have to do? They'll list all the right things. I guess I'd have to eat a little better. I'd have to get a little bit more exercise. I should probably quit smoking, or I'll have to skip that glass of wine that I like. And then you ask them, well, why don't you do those things? They always say, well, I don't really want to. I like my life the way that it is. I enjoy it. I know there's trade-offs and this and that. So how do you motivate people to make a change? That's really the hard part. And that's where we collectively felt like maybe some influencer marketing could make a difference, because sometimes it's just seeing people like myself doing a little healthier version of what I do anyway that can move me toward action, and realizing, I don't have to give up the food that I like, or I don't have to completely cut out things that I like doing. I don't have to exercise every day. Maybe I just exercise a little bit more. So showing regular people doing regular things can be a great motivator. And social media, specifically influencer marketing, is really the next best thing to having a trusted friend or member of your family motivate you and inspire you to make some healthy changes. And that's where we got together, right, Adair? That was kind of the spark that lit this. And this is literally the slide from a presentation that Amanda and I did about influencer marketing, and I think pretty specifically about YouTube or about TikTok, that started the conversation that led to what we're doing with Adair today. Amanda, tell us about influencer marketing. What is it?
So you see here, there's this stat: 1 in 5 Americans are trusting health influencers more than medical professionals. And that's, coming out of COVID and all the things that we've been experiencing in the healthcare arena, it just makes it so much more important now to leverage this tactic and to find influencers that can help represent our brands. And I know a lot of time when we talk to clients, and we've spoken about this before at conferences, a lot of times people think an influencer is a LeBron James or a Kim Kardashian, or even an employed physician, someone who already might be on TikTok, or they want to do testimonials. But that doesn't have to be the case. When we're talking about influencer marketing specific to this campaign and what we're going to show you, we're talking about finding influencers that your audiences are already following. Really leveraging the idea that you can't just become the friends and family that are recommending healthcare options to their people, right? Like, we know that that's the number one way that people find care. So the next best thing is to use an influencer, because they're already on there, they're already following, and they already trust these influencers.
That's a crazy number. People trust influencers more than they trust their doctors in a lot of cases. That's wild, right? You guys must be interested in how to use influencer marketing and see some value in it, or you probably wouldn't be paying much attention with us today. It's easy to say, oh yeah, that's a great idea. It can be way harder to make it reality, right? There's all kinds of stuff in the way. But Adair, you want to talk about the things that were in your way maybe, and how we all got over that together?
Yeah, I'm sure for most people on the call, budget is always a sticking point. And I will say, before, we went down the route of doing a paid influencer strategy, we were doing a non-paid strategy and just were not very successful. So I quickly realized, along with the team, like, if we are going to move forward with it, budget was an area that we needed to expand on. So I luckily did have, budget that I was able to use. But I would say the next biggest sticking point for my leaders, which I imagine would be the case for other people on the call, was really them not wanting it to come off as inauthentic. So in their mind, they were thinking, we're going to pay someone to say something about us. It's going to come off as a paid partnership, and just being very weary that it was disingenuous. But really, luckily, after, talking with Craig and Amanda, just really realizing that's not the case for a lot of influencers. People go to these people to get their opinions, and really working with people that make sense and align with your mission.
Another big deal for a lot of people who are thinking about exploring influencer marketing is the idea of brand safety. And we're going to talk more in a minute about how to ensure brand safety, and also to maintain some control over the creative that goes out, while still allowing that creative to be authentic to the influencer's brand, because she or he has to make things that look right, or their audience is going to ignore them immediately. So there are a lot of different ways to try to get an influencer campaign going. Once Adair had decided and convinced her bosses that this was a thing that was worthy of trying, it was time to get to work. And Amanda's going to tell us a little bit about just the nuts and bolts of what it takes to get a campaign like this started.
So the first thing you really have to identify, understand, and share with your team and your leadership is the goal of an influencer marketing campaign. Influencer marketing is a little different than other tactics. You're not running ads that you're driving people to sign up for bariatric seminars and things that have like an immediate payoff. You're really leveraging that influencer's audience. That's the benefit in all of this, right? And you're expanding your message and expanding all the other tactics that you're doing through this tactic. So identifying that and understanding, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, And making a goal specific to the influencer marketing campaign is going to be really important for the last piece later on, where you're measuring your results and seeing the success of the campaign. Another thing to really keep in mind is to create focused mini campaigns. So while, we're trying to do a lot of things at the same time, creating different segments of messages is going to be important, so that when you look at the influencers and you're finding the right influencers to work with you, it's going to be easier to align the content that you want to share with that influencer's brand. For example, if they're into nutrition, and so that would be perfect for like Eat Fit that Adair mentioned. We're talking about food and wellness and going to restaurants. You want to find an influencer that's already in that world. So keeping that in mind, focusing your messages and just creating little sub campaigns will make it a lot easier when you look for influencers to make sure that they're the right ones. And then from there, of course, allocating the proper budget ratio. We talked a little bit about the different kinds of influencers. Influencers will differ based on how many followers they are, and that is going to make an impact on how much you pay them for the stuff that they're making for you. So once you have an idea of what these topics are and what kind of influencers you're looking for, you're going to want to then think about, what size, how big the following has to be in order to really understand how to break up that budget ratio. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. And then, of course, always working with whatever else is going on in your Markham department, your teams, making sure that you're sharing information in both directions. It's important to know what's going on in advertising and other communications, so you can add that into the influencer marketing if there's opportunity. And in reverse, everything that you create in your influencer marketing campaigns can be shared in your other social, through your organic social media channels and efforts. So keep that in mind. Don't work in a silo. It's just more meaningful when you can share that information back and forth. And then just setting expectations, that goes to the identifying your goal, making sure that everyone understands what influencer marketing it is and how it's going to really make an impact for the overall campaign.
So let's talk about a few specific things. You mentioned a moment ago, Amanda, that an influencer doesn't have to be Kim Kardashian or LeBron James, but there are some things that you need to specifically keep in mind when you're thinking about what kind of influencer you want for your campaign. What are these three key things?
So we mentioned influencer tiers. So you have influencers that might have 10,000 followers, and you have some that might have 1 million followers. And really what you're looking for to find the right fit for your brand is an influencer that has the right followers in the right areas and are talking about the right things. That's how you would make a decision really on which tier, whether you're looking for micro, macro, or something in the middle. The first thing you want to think about is the geography of the followers themselves. Forget about where the influencer is located, because in the digital world, you don't need to be in front of the influencer physically, right? It's really about the followers and where they're located. And we'll talk about tools to help you find that information, but that's the first thing you really have to think about, aside from the tier that you're looking for. And then also the content. What are they already talking about? We mentioned, Adair mentioned authenticity. That's the key thing with influencer marketing, making sure that the influencer is going to create something that sounds authentic to what they're already putting out there. So doing the research and looking at what these influencers are talking about is going to be really key to then creating something that is going to sound appropriate for their brand and also has to align with your brand.
Adair, you mentioned a minute ago that you had tried using your own people, your own providers and patient stories, I think, and some of those things. That's a very different approach from what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we do have, like our thought leader program where we utilize our physicians. And like I said before, we did take a non-paid approach prior to this paid strategy. And really finding people on that non-paid aspect was a little bit more difficult. Also, these are their jobs, their livelihoods. So obviously they want to get paid for their work. So really having, the help of the WAX team and identifying those influencers and then having budget to back it up has been, instrumental in launching this program.
So what are some of those tools that you mentioned, Amanda? How can someone, without our help, how can someone find influencers that might be able to amplify their other efforts?
There's a lot of tools out there, and we've used as an agency multiple different ones. There's Upfluence, Find Your Influence, there's Grin. There's all kinds of things out there, but the real key to all of this is leveraging a tool that has the data and parameters, the ability to search with specific parameters to find and identify those right influencers that we mentioned in the previous slide. Things like, where are the followers located? What are the demographics of those followers? And easily sift through all the different channels that one influencer might be on, and understand their engagement, because these tools will also track that and show you, on average, what kind of engagement they're getting. And that kind of goes back, like, yeah, Kim Kardashian might be, all over and has a huge following, but is that engagement going to be the right engagement for the kind of content that you're looking for? So that really makes it easy, or easier, right?
And is there going to be any engagement with a huge influencer, a Kardashian, a LeBron James level? We have found that, not surprisingly, those really high level and therefore more expensive influencers get a lot of impressions. A lot of people see those posts, but they get hardly any interaction. And if you want to get some interaction and get a conversation going, you're much better off with a smaller level influencer. Fewer people will see it, but way more people will engage with it. And that's pretty beneficial. This is an example that we're showing now of a dashboard from one of these tools. And it's not unlike sort of a dating site where you put in parameters of what you're looking for, who you're looking for, where you want them to be present. And it gives you lots of options. And then you can start to turn filters on and sort that out to find exactly who you need.
And back to their location, because think about hospitals specifically. You have a specific service area. I know now there's some tools that are, through the apps and stuff like that, that you have more of a presence outside of your service area. But we're looking at a very small area compared to where a lot of these bigger influencers are influencing.
So
I see a quick question in here about the names of some of those tools. We'll follow up on this afterwards and give you some examples of those. But I mentioned Upfluence, Grin, and Find Your Influence just off the top of my head.
those are three that we have some experience with. So that's Upfluence, just like it sounds, Find Your Influence, and then Grin, just like a smile. So that's great to have those tools, but it's harder than that too, right? Kind of like an online dating site, to extend the analogy. Lots of people out there, lots of people trying to make connections, and lots of brands trying to make connections.
And we've, as we've been talking about influencer marketing at Wax, we've been talking about this now for a little while, and we're starting to experience it. People are catching on, brands are catching on to this. And so it's making it harder to actually connect with an influencer, despite having the tools and the ability to find the right influencers you want to work with. The next step is getting their attention and making it so that they actually read your email, and connect with you and want to work with you. But there's some tips on how to do that, right? And some research shows us that there's 61% of influencers in a survey. They're saying that 5 to 10 brands are reaching out to them on a daily basis. That's a lot, right? So how can we really get through that clutter? Well, one thing is to think about influencers as their own brand, right? That it is essentially, they are their own brand. Their social media channel represents the brand that they are. So we have to think that they are interested in expanding those relationships to expand their brand, but it just has to align with what they're doing. So that's important for them. It's critical to making sure that everything you put towards them is clear and it's aligned with what they're doing. So that's the second one, clarity. When you do a pitch, however it is that you're doing it, we recommend using a tool. It's more organized, but even if you reach out to them through their social media channel, it's very important to be concise and clear about what you're offering. So one of the things that this study shows is to make sure that you're outlining the expectations and putting the compensation right up front in your pitch or your proposal to an influencer. Those are the key things that as they're sifting through all these different requests, they're really looking for, make it easy and make it stand out. Consider that they're social first. They're social media influencers, right? It's right in the name. So even though you might be using a tool to connect with them, don't give up if they don't answer you through an email. Try them through their channels as well. DM them, just like if you were following them. They're very likely to connect with you through that as well. And then also let them make their case. We have to remember back to authenticity. We want to bring the influencers to the creative table as we go through the process of creating content. They are going to be the experts of the kind of content that their followers care about and the style and, and how they put it together, whether it's videos or if it's blogs, there's all kinds of different ways to communicate on social media and through influencer marketing. So let them come and be part of that. So to kind of wrap this back around, make sure that you're making an offer that they can't refuse. The first thing you have to really think about too is casting a really wide net. And we'll talk a little bit more about our experiences with this particular campaign with Ochsner, but you want to start big so that you can narrow it down and have more opportunity. We mentioned compensation in your pitch letters. Also, it's important to offer you have to be flexible as far as whether you're offering a flat fee and are you going to do a long-term engagement with them or a short-term engagement. Remaining flexible in that is going to be a lot more attractive also for an influencer. Making sure your pitch is nice and compelling so you can get through that clutter. Your subject line is going to be important. So if you're writing an email, making sure that those key points are right up there so that they can see that email and engage with it. And as I mentioned, trying multiple channels to reach them. Reach out to them directly on their social media channels and so on.
I think we've included a PDF of some of these tips too. We're going to make that available after this presentation. There was a great Adweek blog post about how to connect with these influencers because there's so much competition for it. So once we find some, and as Amanda said, we have to cast a very wide net because a lot of them are either not going to be acceptable to our client or they're going to be too busy or they're not going to respond. They're going to be a no-go for some reason. So you have to have a bunch of them out there, but that makes it complicated to organize. We put together this tool that helps us organize all of the key data so that we can, in this case, help Adair see, here are the people that we recommend and here are all the different criteria. Which ones do you like?
Yeah, and I would say this was very beneficial on my end. I'm the one, meeting with Craig, Amanda, and the WAX team on a weekly basis, but being able to summarize really quickly for my leaders, who are the influencers we're looking at, links to their profiles. I mean, the WAX team does a great job of kind of filtering through, but just so we can quickly look, make sure there's no red flags for us. And then getting a good understanding of, where their audience is, what their age demographics are, things like that was very beneficial for my leadership, just to quickly scan and off the bat make decisions whether, someone we wanted to move forward with.
Then once you narrowed that down for us, Adair, we were able to put together some even better, really pointed specific profiles of some of the influencers you were interested in. So you get it all summed up in one place.
Again, just very organized and easy for leadership who's probably getting a ton of emails at once just to quickly get an overview of everything. So staying organized has been very helpful on my end.
However you guys do it, we suggest you adopt some sort of methodology like this where you can get at a glance information that'll help you make choices.
And we did include a template of that Excel sheet that you saw earlier. So that will be available for you all to download and use to help you get started.
So based on all of that work and the use of the platform and the tools that we have available, we found 23 influencers that we thought were a good fit for this campaign and for Adair's other efforts. We brought 23 forward. They approved 11 of them for possible engagement. And then we went and followed up with those 11 to see how many we could actively really engage. We're going to show you some examples coming up next. We have 2 who are actively posting now and are into multiple posts and scheduled to continue on a regular cadence. We have 3 more that are pending and ready to go and either lined up to start posting or just about ready to start posting. So remember what we said about casting a wide net. It took 23 for consideration to get 11 for approval, to get 2 that are actively working a month or so later, and 3 more that are ready to go. So that's not a very high, I'll call it a success rate, but that's a really typical rate. You have to have a bunch of candidates in order to get down to ones that'll work.
The other thing I'll add to, I think, is like making sure you are focusing on bigger picture projects and not like very time sensitive ones as well, because if you're trying to get in touch with an influencer for an event or project in a week, timeline is difficult. So just making sure you're keeping it more broad.
That's true. It takes 4 to 6 weeks, I'll say, from the time that we try to engage with an influencer to the time that we actually have them under contract, have a creative brief in their hands, have some kind of guiding content from them, and are ready for them to put their first post up. So that's a great point, Adair. And it's also really nice, back to an earlier point, to find people who are already making dynamic content, because you know they're going to make something great for your campaign as well. So now we're going to spend the last few minutes talking about and showing you some of the influencers who are actively working on this campaign and the kind of content that they've made. This is Ellen, and she has co-branded herself with Ochsner. This was her launching post. I don't know how, if you don't have a big screen, you might not be able to read it, but she says, "Excited to partner with Ochsner's Healthy State Initiative. Expect to learn about topics ranging from healthy eating to primary care in the near future. Visit the link in our bio for more," and all the right hashtags in there. She made something that looks perfect with the rest of her brand, and it's exactly the kind of thing that her followers expect and want from her. And she set the right tone too. Back to what Adair said a minute ago, it feels authentic, and it is authentic, but it's not like she's trying to pretend like it's not a sponsored post.
And I think Amanda had touched on this before, like giving the influencers room to create their own content. I'd say in our previous work as influencers, we were, feeding them a lot of content, and it doesn't really come off as authentic, and you don't have as many influencers biting. So really allowing Ellen to, have the concepts behind the photo she wants to share, the caption, and we're just kind of going in, tweaking, making sure it, is appropriate for our brand.
These are creative people. That's why they do what they do, and that's how they've built the audience that they have. So giving them some creative license is really, really important. At the same time, using a platform like we've recommended gives you the ability to have a contract with them, to have some protection for your own brand, to pay everybody through one platform, to get dashboards that show all of the activity and engagement that they've created across all of their platforms in one place. It really makes everything safer and easier, and much easier to see what's working, what's not working as well, and to report that up to your leadership team too. Let's take a look at Ellen's next post.
I love this one.
What's that?
I said, I love this one. This next one, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Talk about it a little bit. What's going on here?
It's just perfectly aligned with her brand, and yet still it perfectly aligned with what Ochsner is trying to accomplish by making it the kind of post we're talking about food. So it looks appealing, it looks airy, and she just does a really good job at these.
One of the things I loved the most on this post is her comment section, because one of the things you talked about in previous slide, Craig, is just it coming off as authentic. And you can see that in the comments that people are engaging with. It fits with her brand and what people expect of her. And just saying that they want to try out the restaurant that she had posted about.
Right, exactly. This got quite a few impressions, and it's a great example of a medium-sized, small to medium-sized following that this influencer has, but a highly engaged following. So she generates a lot of activity. She posts a lot every day in many cases. And people look forward to her content. And now people look forward to hearing more about the Ochsner content and seeing these restaurants and getting inspired to figure out healthier options for eating, and really just getting inspired in general. We used the phrase a minute ago, borrowing audience. And that's really what we're doing here. We're borrowing audience, and we're also borrowing affection and affinity. And now people who like Ellen and the work that she does also sort of like Ochsner and the work that they do, right? It's a really great give and take, and it's a win-win for everybody. By the way, it also enhances Ellen's personal brand because it makes her look like part of something really important. It's not just her as an influencer, it's her partnered up with a big health system.
And there's also some on the last slide, some metrics on there that you could see. That's another thing about using the tools that's really beneficial for health, for us as healthcare marketers, is to be able to measure the success. And I mentioned influencer marketing is a little bit different. It's not as direct as a form fill or things like that. But there is one metric that most tools have, which is measuring what, based on the engagement and the likes and everything that happens on social media, it'll give you an idea of what that would have cost you if you would have been doing a paid advertisement. And that's a good way to kind of bring that back together and let leadership know, hey, this is the impact that we had. This is the return that we got.
And of course, you can also have your influencers drive traffic to your website or to your company, your organization's social media, and help to grow your followers and help to get some more metrics from that direction too, and be able to show and really understand the long-term benefit from these relationships. Let's take a look at another influencer who's part of this effort and coming at it from a little bit different direction. This is a food blogger, popular one. You can see they have 13.5 thousand followers here, and they just do food. So they have partnered up with us as part of the Eat Fit program, and now they're going and trying different restaurants that have Eat Fit approved items on the menu. Talk about that a little bit, you guys.
Yeah, so this, like you said, Craig, was a popular influencer in Baton Rouge. And what I really like about it is that they are someone that goes to different restaurants within the area. So again, just really authentic of them trying out a restaurant that happens to have Eat Fit approved items. And I also really like the fact that this account is ingrained in the culture of, Baton Rouge, Louisiana in general. So again, kind of sharing those great substitutes for meals that we like. And again, it comes off as an authentic, post coming from them.
And I want to point out that neither of these two influencers are health or wellness influencers. Ellen is a kind of a lifestyle and inspirational influencer. Baton Rouge is a food blogger influencer. And that's great because it broadens the audience. If we were only using nutritionists to do this, they would only talk to people who are already interested in better nutrition or healthier eating. Now we're getting in front of people who they didn't really know that they wanted or needed this. So it's expanding that audience. I love the comments here too. Don't tell anyone I said this, but the salads are dang good at this restaurant. And I'm starting my eating healthy journey last week. This is so exciting to see. That's great. Somebody who found exactly what they needed because of one of these influencers.
Like you were just saying, it might have been people that haven't started a health journey yet. So we're reaching a new audience of people through this account.
Yep. And it's a beautiful post too. So I want to read this. I want to look at it. I want to be part of it. And that makes me feel differently about the Ochsner brand and the Eat Fit program too, because it looks super pro. So both of those influencers are now fully engaged, and they're scheduled to make very regular posts, which will continue to drive the right kind of attitudes and the right kind of traffic. We have 3 more who are lined up now and either getting ready to actively post or are in the earlier stages of being contracted. None of them are nutritionists. None of them are professional healthcare professionals or providers of any kind. And that's great because these influencers speak to pretty different audiences and are going to give us a huge new opportunity for that borrowed audience and borrowed affinity. We have Jordan at the top, who's a foodie and a traveler. She has 23,000 followers, and that's awesome because those people look to Jordan for inspiration and ideas for how to live an exciting life. And now she gets to point out to them that that can also be a healthy life. So again, that's the win-win situation for Jordan and for Ochsner. We have Robin Barnes, who is a widely acclaimed jazz singer, and a pretty popular person, 26,000 followers here, so nice medium-sized influencer. She also conveniently and very coolly has a side project that she calls Move Your Brass, which is about exercise and inspiring people to get sort of organic exercise. She has meetups in parks where they get together and they exercise and they run and they do healthy things. So she's perfectly aligned with this whole program, and a very inspirational person. And we have Rocio, who's what the industry would call a mom blogger. Interestingly, she's a member of the sandwich generation, which you guys will all be familiar with. She is right now taking care of children of her own and also a parent who has some health issues. So she's stuck in the middle there of trying to manage her health, her family's health, her parents' health, her husband's health. And that's a pretty common situation. So her followers look to her for ideas and inspiration, how they can do a better job with that too, and some of those same challenges. These are all going to be awesome. And you can see that this gives us, what, 80,000 access to 90,000 more people potentially to bring into the Healthy State and the Eat Fit programs, and to help to really broaden the already good efforts that Ochsner had going on. How excited are you guys about this?
Oh, I'm excited.
And hopefully the people around you are excited about it too. And now that we really have some momentum going, we can start to celebrate the effectiveness. And remember, this whole bit today is about using influencer marketing to amplify all the other great things that are going on. So it's a nice example of how that can work. So a few steps to keep in mind when you're ready to get started. Make sure you have those clear goals in mind, and that's for your organization and then out for the influencers you're going to engage with. Get organized. Think about the type of influencer that makes sense, small, medium, or large. Are you looking for maximum impressions? Are you looking for maximum interaction? Pick a tool. Don't try to do this the hard way by just getting on the interwebs and fishing around for somebody you think makes sense. Find a partner who can help you, or find a platform that you can work with on your own. That'll help to solve a lot of problems and streamline a lot of things. Make sure you're pitching correctly to those potential influencers so you can cut through the clutter and you can make the right kind of deal with the right kind of person. And don't give up. It's hard. Remember our numbers. We needed 23 to get to 2 to 5. You'll probably encounter the same challenges. So don't give up. Keep trying. It's worth it. And there's interesting stuff ahead. What else, you guys? Adair, any lessons learned or anything you think people should take away?
I think it's just, rolling with the punches too. Like, having openness to the content that the influencers are going to share, knowing that, the timeline's not always going to be perfect. But really, this is such an area of healthcare that I don't think a lot of people are taking advantage of. So just starting to dip your toes in it, seeing how it goes, I think is a really great strategy to take.
Awesome. And I know we just have a few minutes left, but
Yes.
happy to take some questions. Do we have any questions, Amanda?
Yeah, we do. And I just wanted to make sure we get to a couple of these. One of them is about legal and risk management on when launching an influencer marketing campaign, and if we have a formal agreement in place. And the answer to that is yes. That's another benefit that you get when you use a tool. You're able to create contracts within the tool as you create conversations with the influencers, and you can add whatever you need in there as far as legal and risk management, and you can have them sign it before you start anything. So yeah, absolutely, that's very important.
We'd be happy to share our kind of boilerplate with anybody who's interested too. If you get in touch with us, we're happy to give you our little lessons learned on that, because the contracts are available, but there are some tweaks and adjustments and nuances to them too.
And I did run it as well by our internal, teams as well, just to make sure that they were fine with it. But it definitely is important to have those in place.
And we have a couple more, and I'm not sure if we're going to have time for them, but we are happy to answer whatever questions you all have back on Top Class. We're going to be in there with you all and keep track of the discussion. So we're happy to answer any questions there.
Great. Well,
All right.
hopefully you guys have found this useful, and be sure to take advantage of the tools and do drop those questions in, and we're happy to come back around and answer them for everybody.
All
Tom?
right. Well, Craig, Amanda, Adair, thank you all so much. This is great. As I already mentioned, please do go into Tab Class and complete those discussion questions and continue the conversation. So thank you all for presenting, and thanks for everyone who joined today. And we'll see you on Wednesday, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.